U.S. military flights have ended, and our troops have departed Afghanistan. A new chapter of America's engagement with Afghanistan has begun. It's one in which we will lead with our diplomacy. The military mission is over. A new diplomatic mission has begun.
Omar Samad is a former Afghan diplomat and non-resident senior fellow at the Atlantic Council, and he joins me now from Washington. We heard from Secretary of State Antony Blinken say earlier that America's work in Afghanistan continues. What does that diplomatic mission potentially look like now that U.S. forces have left?
Well, that diplomatic mission now has to be redefined based on what decisions are taken in Kabul. I think the burden of proof now is on the Taliban and on other Afghan leaders who may or may not be part of a new government arrangement that is being discussed right now. There are talks going on in Kandahar amongst Taliban themselves because it seems like they may have differences of opinion on the road forward. And there are obviously talks going on in Kabul. But as was said by my friend in Kabul, the challenges are numerous. They are heavy and require fast action. The Afghan people expect it. The region and the international community also are waiting to see what the Taliban and others do next.
Yeah, and you said the burden of proof is on the Taliban, and we are still seeing resistance to the Taliban. What does this transition period potentially look like?
The resistance in Panjshir, if that is what you're alluding to, is, I think, a homegrown, organic resistance that is trying to convey a message. The message is very clear. Afghanistan cannot be run by just one faction. It is a country that has diversity, and you need to take the diversity into account. And obviously, they have some specific demands that I think should be dealt with over time. I think what they need to do is diffuse the situation with some decisions that are immediate, but over time they can discuss things that have to do with structure and political order and rights and so on and so forth, as do other Afghans with the Taliban. But as far as the overall situation is concerned, I think that people are looking for, after all these years, are looking for some level of stability and peace, and obviously they want their lives to have meaning and their livelihoods to be taken care of. People do not want to face economic hardship from now on.
What role do you see surrounding countries taking in Afghanistan in terms of negotiation with the Taliban for security protection or even taking in refugees?
Well, the role of the region and the neighboring countries is going to be very, very important, in my opinion. I think not only do they have relationships with the Taliban, as we have seen, the Pakistanis, of course, the Iranians, the Russians, the Chinese, all have had long-standing relations for the past 3-4 years with the Taliban. And so the Taliban, including even countries like Qatar, and maybe even Turkey down the road. I think that the Taliban are looking at the region from a very different perspective. They pay attention to it. They know it's important. They may have other views about the rest of the international community at this point, but they want and they need good relations with everybody, not only in terms of assistance and funding and issues that they share with the region, but also because they don't want to be diverted, their attention diverted by issues that are non-Afghan. They want to focus on internal matters to the extent possible.
Do you see the U.S. potentially negotiating with the Taliban as a government?
Well, again, that depends mostly on the Taliban, and I think on how they behave, what steps they take, what decisions they make about the political order, about people's rights, about being a good member of the international community, as it's called, and adhering to international norms. I think all of that will be looked at very carefully by countries such as the United States. And I don't see any reason why at some point, if they do what's supposed to be done, that others will engage in a more normal fashion.
All right, we'll leave it there. Omar Samad joining us from Washington. Thank you.